To business news now. Nona Peltier is here in the studio. Good evening to you.
Good evening.
We're looking at a recent survey indicating that wage pressure is building up. So people want, 6 to 9% wage?
Yeah.
Is that going to happen? Or?
Well, it doesn't seem like it will because 2/3 of employers are only prepared to offer up to 3%. Interesting, because past surveys have indicated that people weren't that worried about wages. They were more interested in having flexibility in the workplace, training skills, and that sort of thing. Yeah, they were more interested in those things, but not now. Now they want the money.
They want the money.
They want the money, but employers they're more prepared to provide those benefits that they were traditionally providing, because I guess they see that as being something that they can afford. But no, wages is certainly going to be a disconnect there. What that means will remain to be seen. But it does show that about half the employees who'd been asking for wages actually got them. So it could be that
it's worth asking.
It's worth asking. It will be interesting to see whether or not we see a shift there. Definitely.
Can you put your application in, Nona?
Oh, you too. Let me know how you do.
Okay, I will. The building industry says it's made this accord with the government has led to greater cooperation with the sector. How's that all happened?
Well, it's also really about labour. So there's critical skill shortages within the construction industry. And one of the things that is a problem is procurement. So one of the concerns that the industry has had is that the government were hiring people to advise them on procurement who really had a background in IT rather than construction. They're saying one of the big issues is that there's not enough skilled people in construction, and that's not just, people who can, use a hammer. They're talking about people with management skills, planning skills, those sorts of things. And they're saying that the Accord is working to address that. So years ago, and I guess we probably forget about this, but we used to have big government departments where they'd hire an architect and a planning person and an engineer, and they'd all work together, and you'd have a training ground. Not now. These days, it's sort of like if you're good, your competitor poaches you, and then the employees are poached from one company to the next. There's no real training ground, and so companies are really struggling to find these trained people. And it's not just locally; it's globally. So when you're looking for someone, you really are competing on that international level for staff. And yes, wages are creeping up for sure.
What's happened on the markets today?
Well, let's see. We finished at a record high, and the NZX Top 50 Index was up 0.2%, 72 points up to a record 10,825, and the New Zealand dollar is also trading quite high. So it's at a 4-month high against the Aussie at 96.2, against the US 67.7, and that's a 3-month high, and against the pence at 54.2, and oil is way up as well, with oil tensions mounting in the Middle East. Yes, indeed. The futures were up 1.4%. That's the Brent crude futures up to $63.35, and that's just over a day.
Wow. We will have a bit more too, of course, on that British and Iran oil tanker issue. That's coming up a bit more before 6. But thank you, Nona Peltier, with everything, the very latest in the business world.